The bases dropped on a slightly chilly Wednesday morning here in the metro Atlanta area. It's June 12th. SDH is live on a Wall Pass Wednesday. You want to join the conversation? Use that hashtag WallPassWednesday on Twitter. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can tweet at me at Longshoe as well. I'm riding solo today. John Nelson is on the road. He'll be back tomorrow. He'll be chiming in on Twitter at OSG Nelson if you want to send him his grilling takes or lessons or anything to help the man on the grill, because after his story earlier this week, he needs it. It's a little chilly in the soccer Twitter sphere right now as well on a number of fronts that relate to the show. U.S. women's national team yesterday afternoon won 13-0 over Thailand, and that upset different people in different ways, and it didn't upset some people at all. We'll get into all of that and try to catch everybody up on who's complaining, who's criticizing, and why, because there's different reasons for it. It all feels a little silly to me, to be perfectly honest. We'll talk to Mike Conti about that at 10 o'clock, get his take, as well as get his take on some other things going on. One of them is a match that was scheduled to be played last night in Charleston, South Carolina, that did not start and will not be played today after recent reporting from Doug Robertson and Chris Furmeister, who will join us at 9:30 with all the latest out of Charleston, South Carolina. Field was deemed unplayable at MUSC Health Stadium for the Open Cup match between Atlanta United and the Charleston Battery. Lots of pictures of what the field looked like. Our friend Mitch Northam from Pro Soccer USA had video of walking on the field shortly after the match was postponed, and you could see some of the issues with the pitch. It didn't look good last Saturday, to be perfectly honest, for their USL Championship match against Birmingham Legion, and then you added rain on top of it and more weather coming through, and it was a bad situation all the way around. According to the reporting from Doug and Chris on the ground in Charleston, there were efforts made last night to play the game today at the College of Charleston at their soccer field, another grass field, and those were seemingly unsuccessful. The Charleston Battery issued a statement very late last night that said this. This is the entire statement. Under the advice of U.S. Soccer's match commissioner and the appointed officials, tonight's U.S. Open Cup match was canceled due to unplayable field conditions prior to kickoff. The Charleston Battery immediately reached out to alternative venues in the area, exploring the possibilities of playing the match within 24 hours. Unfortunately, and in addition to deteriorating weather conditions in the Charleston area, this option was not possible. We will update with further news on the game after consultation with U.S. Soccer. There are some elements of the U.S. Open Cup rules that do play in here about timing and the way things go down. The thing that Charleston mentioned about 24 hours, that specifically relates to the Open Cup handbook, the Open Cup rule book. In the event that a game cannot be rescheduled for the next day and the teams involved cannot, within 24 hours of cancellation, reach agreement on a new match date that is within 7 days of the originally scheduled date, the commissioner will set the date. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because right now you will be, if you're U.S. Soccer, you are completing the fourth round of the tournament at the end of the night tonight. The plan was for the draw for the round of 16 to take place tomorrow. Now, the round of 16 can be played. The set date is Wednesday, June 19th, but as we see, there is leeway on some of the dates. You see some Tuesday games. You saw quite a few Tuesday games in the tournament last night. This round of 16 week specifically has more leeway built in because of many MLS teams not being involved in league play at the moment. There's not a ton of leeway here, and it doesn't really help Charleston because the Charleston Battery do play in USL Championship on Saturday. It's unclear, and I'm trying to get some clarification on this as we go this morning, if that match could be moved to make room for an Open Cup match. It's unclear as to if an Open Cup match has to be scheduled in that window, if U.S. Soccer has that jurisdiction and the Open Cup has the priority in that scheduling. We haven't seen this happen at this stage. Usually where you have issues with league matches and cup matches, it's in the early rounds of qualifying where you're talking about teams playing in their local leagues or their regional leagues and not in a league like USL Championship or MLS. Atlanta United doesn't play a league game until June 26th, so they have time. The quarterfinals don't take place until July 10th. But if, and right now what it appears will happen for the draw for the round of 16 is you will see what we've seen with the FA Cup and the League Cup and other cup competitions around the world where games get postponed. You will see the winner of the Atlanta-Charleston match drawn for whoever they're going to play in the round of 16. Now, if that has to take place later than the scheduled date, U.S. Soccer has that jurisdiction. They can set the schedule. They can do that. That could affect who they're playing next, and then you get tricky with all of that, and you have to start looking ahead at league schedules and where midweek games fall and this or that. It's not going to be easy to deal with. That's why you try to get these games played at all costs because of these types of complications. It's a mess. There's all kinds of accusations being thrown around in a lot of different ways. When you look at the pictures of the field, and we had pictures sent our way on Twitter at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, 3.5 hours before kickoff was set. And you could see a lot of sand on the field, on the technical area side of the field, right in front of the technical areas, also down in the corner in front of the big scoreboard. Michael Earhart shared these with me and with Doug Robertson on Twitter from about 4:05 yesterday. And if you go back and you look at the highlights of the match on Saturday against Birmingham Legion in USL Championship, you could see the sand. You could see the issues with that. It was a problem. And you did see a Tampa Bay Rowdies player, Tarek Morad, say that if this was a USL Championship match, it would have been played. Now, there's differences in the way that part gets handled as well, and that's another element to this. In a league match, and I'm not sure what the actual start time for where the referees are in complete control, but there is a point, and I believe it's an hour before kick. It could be, and different leagues can set their own rules on this. It could be when the match kicks off. The referee is the person who makes that decision about the field's unplayable, the match has to be canceled or postponed. U.S. Open Cup, Section 308, subsection A. Only the match commissioner may declare a match cancellation. The match commissioner must consult with the team's general managers, the referees, and a U.S. Soccer representative before any game may be canceled. Don't know who the match commissioner was. Don't know if they were on site. There's been talk about phone calls being made from Atlanta United to U.S. Soccer about the situation. And ultimately, U.S. Soccer is they're the governing body of the match. So if there's questions about the field being playable, that's who you would be talking to. That part, I think, is being blown way out of proportion. And the referees don't make that final decision. The ball never kicked off. You had lineups submitted. You did not have a kickoff. The game was postponed not too long after the scheduled kickoff time. There's probably going to be a lot of backstory here, and there's probably a lot of complications around it. I don't think that during the warm-up was when, it was decided, oh, yeah, this field is not in good shape. You could see it when you arrived. You could see it before the teams arrived. And you had a ton of rain coming, and you've got more rain today in Charleston. So you weren't going to get it played at MUSC Health Stadium today. Nothing was going to change. It's a mess. And it'll be very interesting to see how U.S. Soccer deals with it, because now you have to deal with USL Championship scheduling with the Battery. You have to deal with getting this game played before you can get the round of 16 game played with whoever Atlanta and Charleston, whoever the winner of that match is drawn with. You want to get this match played as soon as possible. You don't have a lot of time to do it in Charleston. There were some very early reports that Chris Furmeister, Pro Soccer USA, said were incorrect, and Battery officials said they were incorrect, about the match being scheduled for Monday or Tuesday of next week at the College of Charleston. And that was, I think, walked backwards. Could that still be a possibility? I guess. I don't know how this is going to get sorted out. We'll talk to Chris in about 15 minutes. We'll talk to Mike Conti at 10 o'clock. He was in the same boat as I was, following all of this from the Atlanta area. A lot of people came out to Grindhouse in Decatur to watch the match, and they had to figure out some ways to get the ESPN Plus feed up on a TV. I really hope that whether it's ESPN, whether it's U.S. Soccer, can work with pub partners and things to explain the easiest ways to get these games up and get them on multiple TVs, because it's a difference if you're not prepared for it, and it's tough. The folks at Grindhouse were outstanding. They got it figured out pretty quickly and had the game, or we're going to have the game up. We did watch some of the Columbus and Pittsburgh game and a little bit of the Red Bulls and New England game as well. So, and the burgers are always excellent, so it was all good. But no game played. We don't know when it's going to be scheduled for. Keeping up with everything on the Twitters about it. We also have a bit of news that I'm going to dig into just a little bit during the break. The MLS Players Association has unveiled this year's first batch of MLS player salary figures. So that is now available. It's a little bit later than it usually has been. We'll get into that for a little bit. We'll probably get into it for the rest of the show. We'll take a quick break. If you have any questions, tweet at me at Longshoe, tweet at the show at Soccer Down Here. Use the Wallpass Wednesday hashtag. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, June 12th edition of the show, Wallpass Wednesday edition. We'll be getting into some of your Wallpass Wednesday questions and thoughts as we go. Chris Furmeister of Pro Soccer USA joins us in the next segment. Was going to dig into the MLS Players Association numbers a bit. The embargo came off at 9 a.m., and it looks like they are just starting to publish the numbers. So the numbers that I saw on the site were end of 2018 and not completely accurate just yet for 2019. So stay tuned. We'll dig into that once they're completely available. Jonathan Tannenwald, our friend from the Philadelphia Inquirer, has a piece about the Philadelphia Union and their salaries and how it compares to the rest of the league. So if you want to get into the Union side of it, that's there, and we'll talk about how some of the different teams play out and some of the overall payrolls. So from Tannenwald's article over at the Philadelphia Inquirer, Atlanta United's guaranteed compensation for 2019 is $12.6 million. That has increased a bit, and that has increased a bit from 2018. I was looking to see what some of the other teams were. Toronto leads the way at $22.1 million with their payroll. Others in that type of ballpark: Chicago at 16.9. LAFC at 14.4, Columbus Crew at 11.2, DC United 10.5, Montreal 12.1, NYC 10.1, Orlando City 11.3, Portland 11.6, Real Salt Lake 10.8, Sporting Kansas City 13 million, Seattle 12.6. Those are your ones that are over $10 million in guaranteed compensation on their payroll. We'll dig deeper as more comes out, and we're able to see some of the specific numbers here. Pity Martinez, according to the MLS Players Association numbers, Atlanta paid $15.05 million in his transfer, and that was one of 12 transfers coming into the league that were worth more than $1 million in this past offseason. Pity was at 15.05. Portland paid $10.26 for Brian Fernandez from Necaxa in Mexico. Toronto paid $10.26 for Alejandro Pozuelo. NYCFC spent a combined $11.97 on Alexandru Matricia, which was $9.12 for him, and Abear, which was $2.85. All right, let's get into the Open Cup and the results from last night to get everybody caught up. There's a bunch of games today. Last night, Columbus, 1-0 win over Pittsburgh. Pretty comfortable for the Crew. David Accam, 55th minute goal. Harrison Offal is probably the biggest story here, making his return to Columbus. That was the first time he's played since the water polo match with Atlanta United back in March. And look, and this is one thing I think people need to keep in mind, with a lot of accusations being thrown at Atlanta United for not wanting to play on a substandard field. Remember Columbus, and that wasn't that long ago, and I'm sure that debacle factored into this and factored into questions about the quality of the field. So in a cup match, in a knockout game, it's there are standards that have to be hit, and it just didn't look like that field was going to hit those standards, not for 90 minutes. Rest of the action from the Open Cup last night. New England, 3-2 winners on the road at MSU Soccer Park over New York Red Bulls. Went to extra time. Crazy game. Juan Agudelo scored on a back heel in the first minute. Red Bulls took a 2-1 lead on goals from Tom Barlow and Christian Caceres on either side of halftime. Teal Bunbury sent it to extra time with a goal in the 85th minute. Then New England gets a red card. Luis Caicedo is sent off in stoppage time. Bunbury with one of the goal of the round, I think, at this point. I think that's fair to say. One of the goals of the tournament. Teal Bunbury chipped Ryan Mara for the winner in the 104th minute, and New England was able to hold on and get a big win on the road. For Bruce Arena, taking over this team and trying to bounce back after the Brad Friedel days, this is a big win. This is a win that you can create some momentum with. It's a huge one for the Revolution. Houston did not have... They had the same result. It's a 3-2 win over Austin. It's not the same feeling coming out of it because the Dynamo took a 3-0 lead at halftime. First half goals from Tomas Martinez, Ronaldo Pena, Matias Vera. Austin Bold made a game of it in the second half. They got goals pretty early in the second half from Xavier Baez and Isaac Promise. They weren't able to find one more to equalize, but Wilmer Cabrera was not happy with the effort from his group after that. Dynamo have to close out games a little bit better in these situations. Austin threw everything at them, nearly found an equalizer, nearly sent it to extra time. Dynamo, defending champs in the tournament, they move on to the next round. Upset of the round so far, St. Louis, 2-1 winners over Chicago. It was at home, sort of. It was in the St. Louis area, not at their usual pitch. They got 2 early first-half goals. Austin Martz, Gaia Bend were the scorers. That gave them the cushion. Johan Kappelhoff left injured for Chicago in the first half. That's the second game in a month that he's left in the first half with an injury. Nemanja Nikolic converted a penalty in the 72nd minute. Jordi Mihailovic earned it. Fire couldn't find anything else. Tomas Gomez, St. Louis's goalkeeper, 8 saves on the night. St. Louis moves on to the round of 16. LAFC fielded a strong lineup, and they beat RSL at Rio Tinto Stadium in Utah 3-0. Carlos Vela opens the scoring in the 8th. Lee Wynn made it 2-0 in the 64th. Adama Diamande added one more in stoppage time to finish it off. 3-0, convincing win for LAFC. If the New England Red Bulls game wasn't the game of the round, the San Jose Sacramento Republic game was. The Quakes won 4-3 at home in just a bonkers game. Second minute, Sacramento takes the lead, Sam Werner. Magnus Eriksson equalizes in the 10th. Viljan Bijev regained the lead for Sacramento. It's a free kick in the 15th minute. Great free kick with the right foot. Sacramento's up 2-1. Christian Espinoza made it 2-2 on a penalty late in the first half. San Jose stretched it to 4-2 with 2 second-half goals from Vaco. And then Drew Skundrich made it an interesting finish with a goal in the 93rd minute, deep in stoppage time. They couldn't find one more. Sacramento put up a great fight, but the Quakes continue on, and Jarrett Smith was celebrating, I am sure. I'm sure he was very, very happy about this. Wild night in the Open Cup. More coming tonight. Here's your matches tonight you can watch on ESPN+. DC United hosting Philadelphia Union. See if the Union can keep their momentum going, as they're going to have to rotate their lineup a little bit with some guys away on international duty. NYCFC hosting North Carolina FC. That's going to be at Belson Stadium on the campus of St. John's University. FC Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium hosting their former USL Championship rivals, Louisville City. That'll be a fun one, because I bet you there'll be some traveling fans there, and those two teams didn't like each other in USL. That's only going to carry over now. Minnesota United hosts Sporting Kansas City at 8 o'clock. FC Dallas hosting Oklahoma City Energy at Westcott Field on the campus of Southern Methodist University in Dallas. I'll be curious to see what the crowd Dallas can pull there is. Memphis 901's hosting Orlando City at the Mike Rose Soccer Complex in Memphis. They're not playing at the usual minor league baseball stadium. I believe the seating is going to be about 2,000 for this, and possibly some standing room only. It could be a pretty interesting atmosphere in Memphis. That's one that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. There's no definite about where Atlanta United will fall if they get past Charleston in the round of 16. There's no way to know how they're going to do this draw, but you would think that Orlando and Memphis, the winner of that, would be at least a possibility for who Atlanta could be drawn with in the round of 16 if they get past Charleston. And we don't know when that's going to be played or where or how that's going to go yet. 3 more games tonight in the Open Cup. Colorado Rapids hosting New Mexico United. I will definitely be peeking in on that one. The Rapids playing really well under Connor Casey. New Mexico United has been the story of the USL Championship this season. That could be a barn burner. LA Galaxy tonight at the Dignity Health Sports Park track stadium, at the smaller stadium on the campus. They're hosting Orange County FC of the NPSL, the only NPSL team left in the tournament. Paul Caligiuri, U.S. men's national team legend, he's in charge of Orange County FC. This is a huge opportunity for an amateur team to go in and face the Galaxy. Now, what is the Galaxy field here? We'll have to wait and see what the lineup looks like. Carlos Vela played for LAFC last night. Does Zlatan play tonight for the Galaxy? That would be the game of a lifetime for some of the Orange County FC amateur guys if they get a chance to go up against Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And in the finale tonight, it's going to be at Cheney Stadium in Tacoma, Washington. Seattle Sounders hosting the Portland Timbers. That one's always fun, no matter where they play it. This time they're going to play it at the home of the Tacoma Defiance in the USL Championship. Seattle and Portland in that stadium. We've seen fireworks between those two in the Open Cup many, many times. If you remember the Clint Dempsey episode where he grabbed the referee's book and ripped it up and was sent off and suspended for a long time in the Open Cup, that happened between these two. You've seen crazy comebacks. You've seen lots of extra time. I don't think you're going to see anything different in this one. So the nightcaps tonight will be a blast between Memphis in a very small venue hosting Orlando, Rapids hosting New Mexico with two hot teams, and Seattle hosting Portland, and they're always hot and they're always angry at each other. So all those will be a lot of fun tonight. Big night of Open Cup. Maybe we'll know what's next for Atlanta United by then. We'll have to wait and see. We're going to take a break. We're going to get Chris Vermeister on the line from Pro Soccer USA. We'll get into your tweets as well. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Apolinski & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 12th edition. All kinds of drama from the Low Country last night, and I think it's still going on, although Chris Furmeister from Pro Soccer USA can let us know. The Atlanta United bus did pull out, right? They have left?
Yeah, that's right. They did leave.
They have left. There will not be a game played today.
I'm here, but they're gone.
Chris is still there. I think Doug's still there, too. And the team is gone. It was one of those nights at MUSC Health Stadium. You want to just run through from when you guys got there to when you left? Because I think that was a long period of time.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, Jason. We were there about the same amount of time that we would have been there had we actually covered a game, so it was great. But just as soon as we got there, Doug had mentioned that someone posted on Twitter an image of the field and that it looked like there were some sandy spots on it. And that absolutely was the case, as everyone knows now. As soon as we walked into the press box, it looked pretty clear that the field was in really bad shape and that playing on it would not be good. Frank de Boer went out ahead of the game and kicked the ball around a little bit to try to figure out how the field was going to play. He was seen walking around talking on the telephone. The match commissioner was out talking on the telephone. There were lots of discussions had between the referees, the match commissioner, Frank de Boer, and Bob de Klerk, his assistant, Charleston's manager. And the players did come out to warm up about 40 minutes before the scheduled kickoff time. And they warmed up for a little while, but then it was probably 15 or 20 minutes before the game was supposed to kick off. They waved them off the field and officially abandoned it without setting a makeup date.
Yeah, it was kind of complicated following it from a distance. And I know Open Cup is a different process in terms of games getting postponed or what have you. Was it there was nothing to do with lightning. It was all field conditions, correct?
Yeah, field conditions. I mean, we haven't really gotten a whole lot of official details.
Okay.
But yes, field conditions was part of it, and there was no lightning in the area, but there was rain in the forecast that evening, and it did continue to rain that night.
How much had it rained in the lead up? I know it was scheduled to, and I know there was some rain before that. Once the teams came out, was it raining then, or did it not start until later?
We got into town yesterday afternoon, and it was dry, but it started raining in the afternoon, raining pretty heavily, rained for a couple hours or so before the game. It had stopped and was maybe just a light sprinkle before the game and when players were warming up. So it was, I mean, the weather conditions were not bad when they were warming up, but it did start raining again later, and the field did not look like, even if it was dry, that it was really all that playable. And if it had gotten taken on more water, it would have been worse.
What was the vibe at the stadium after this started to become clear that, okay, you're not going to have a match? I know you tweeted about it and Doug tweeted about it, some comments that were made about Atlanta and kind of, derogatory things about them being soft and not wanting to play on that field.
Yeah, I mean, the official comments, like I said, they just say that the field was deemed to be unplayable, and so the match was abandoned. Not a decision, from either side, really. But
right.
But the Charleston folks seem to believe that this was being pushed by Atlanta. The sort of buzz in the press box around us as we were trying to figure everything out, folks did not seem happy with Atlanta. And then in the Three Lions pub after the game, after we were kicked out of the press box because they were locking up, which is a great pub inside the stadium. There was one server who who came up to us and asked if we were blogging about the game and asked us if we thought that the Atlanta players were a little soft for not wanting to play on that field. Yeah, I don't think Charleston folks are happy about it.
Oh, man. I mean, I went back and watched the highlights from the Saturday match that was there, Charleston and Birmingham, and there were large swaths of sand on the field on Saturday. And from the pictures that I saw that were posted at just after 4 o'clock, there were new swaths of sand, and they were right in front of the technical areas. And I know there was one down on the end by the giant scoreboard. From the Birmingham match, there was one just outside of the technical, or just outside of the 18 on the other end of the field. I mean, how much sand was there on this field to try to make it playable?
It was a lot. The sandy spots, they were pretty consistently throughout the field. It wasn't like there was just one area or two areas of the field that were torn up. Doug is signaling to me that he counted 10 large sandy spots throughout the field. So, I mean, it was the whole field was a mess. It wasn't like that there was just one spot that had a drainage issue or something.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what happens here because you're looking ahead at schedules and you're trying to figure out where you can get this game in. You know, Atlanta has flexibility because they don't have any games scheduled until June 26th, but Charleston has league play. Is there any inkling as to what's going to happen next?
No, not really. I mean, we're all sort of in the dark. You know, there's been very informal comments on what might happen, but nothing close to official. About an hour or so after the players left the field last night, Charleston Battery's president, Mike Keller, came into the press box and sounded pretty confident in saying that they expected the game to be played today at College of Charleston's soccer stadium and maybe at noon, but nothing official on that. But yeah, he sounded confident enough that it seemed like that was a possibility. But there's rain in the forecast today. It's raining right now. I'm not sure why he was so confident in that. But so, yeah, I mean, there have been reports that it could be played up here next week at any number of different venues. There's been some inkling that maybe it'll be played at Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw, but no, that we're all pretty much completely in the dark right now.
Yeah, I saw the College of Charleston talk, and I believe you helped walk back a report out of Charleston that it would be played Monday or Tuesday at the College of Charleston. So that's not really on the cards at this point.
Well, I don't know. As of last night, that didn't seem like it was in the cards
Right.
because it did contradict, like I said, what the team president had told us pretty confidently. But, obviously the game is not going to be played today. The team is not here. Atlanta United is gone. And I don't think that they would agree to, turn around and come back and play tomorrow or something. And, yeah, the Battery have a game at Tampa this weekend. So, yeah, early next week could be a possibility. And I think that since the Battery are the host team in this scenario, that they really are trying to get it done up here. I don't think they want to play in Kennesaw. And I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, that would take a pretty big change in approach because with Charleston being able to host, the problem that comes into it, and this is going to be down to the U.S. Open Cup committee to make decisions on. We don't know what Charleston submitted for their home field, if they submitted multiple fields. If they did and they were approved, then they could move it to, if it's College of Charleston, if that's approved by U.S. Soccer, that's an easy switch. If they're having to add a new home field that has not been approved previously by U.S. Soccer, that might not be an overnight process, and that's where you could see something get moved. It's tricky. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be an easy way out of this that everybody's going to be happy with.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be easy. If it were easy, I think they would have announced something by now. It has, sounded like that maybe they've been waiting on some approval from U.S. Soccer for something. But again, that's that's not official. The Charleston folks are pretty disappointed. I mean, I think that they were really looking forward to this game, hosting not only an MLS team in the Cup, but the defending champions and a team with the kind of buzz that Atlanta has. They were, the talk in the press box amongst their communication staff and front office folks was that this was like one of the biggest games that they would ever host at their stadium. So the fact that maybe they'll play it up here, but not in their home stadium will be disappointing. And if they weren't able to play it up here at all, that would really be a bummer for them.
Yeah, the part that's a little surprising to me is if it's going to get postponed and played next week, why would they already be looking at playing at a different venue than their home stadium? And I mean, I don't think it's really a secret at this point about the conditions of the field at MUSC Health Stadium. I mean, we've seen it on a dry night where they haven't been great conditions. Again, Saturday, there was sand on the field Saturday. The fact that they're already looking at other venues potentially for reschedules, a little surprising, I think a little telling about how bad the conditions really were last night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, is that they looked bad enough last night, and considering that there's just going to be more rain in the future. I mean, I don't know that field, if it was deemed unplayable last night, I don't know that anything would change for the better where it would be deemed playable on a Monday or a Tuesday. If Atlanta comes back up here and sees the same field again, they would not be happy about that. And I don't know how a U.S. soccer official would be able to determine that it was not playable last night, but in the same state would be playable next week. So, yeah, they would certainly have to do a lot of work to get it up to par.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and thanks for all the great reporting that you and Doug and Mitch and everybody on site did last night, because I can tell you that people at Grindhouse in Decatur, we were all following Twitter and waiting on updates and yelling at everybody as what the latest was, because nobody really knew, and it was a weird night.
Yeah, very weird. I mean, we were kind of in the same boat. I mean, I guess we were getting information a little bit faster than y'all, but we've pretty much been sitting around waiting for the updates as well. It's been bizarre.
So let's get into something else that you just posted. Atlanta United's salaries for 2019 are now out and public. And, I mean, I guess the biggest one that jumps out at you is the raise that Joseph Martinez got with his new contract. And I think it was, pretty well expected that he would see a significant raise. His salary goes up to just over $3 million guaranteed for 2019. Pity Martinez, his initial salary is $900,000 guaranteed. Ezequiel Barco's on 1.425. I believe that's a slight increase from 2018. Did anything else jump out to you about the salaries that were released?
I have only just been able to take a look at this. I saw it about 5 minutes before I jumped on here with you, and I mean, it's
breaking news.
Breaking news here. I think that Joseph's salary, certainly he's the reigning MVP, he's the record goal scorer. He's sort of signed on to be the face of this franchise and the face of this sport in Atlanta. So he's certainly deserved his raise. Pity Martinez making. I was almost kind of surprised that he wasn't making more than $1 million a year.
Same.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Why, but that was sort of. But at the same time, it's been a tough start to the year for him. So he certainly has not played like $1 million player yet. But it all pretty much looks about how I would have expected it. Barco's salary seems about in line for what you would expect. It's interesting to see Michael Parkhurst making $300,000. I mean, there was talk of him possibly leaving in the offseason. Toronto FC, he was interested, and he was certainly looking for a new deal at a raise, and $300,000 is what he got.
Yeah, that's a good point on Parkhurst. I think the other one is Breck Shea. A lot of people were thinking he would be on a similar number to what he was on before, and it's $225,000, which feels about right for where he is and what his role is in this team. So it's early, I think, comparing these to other teams. And when you look at the overall spend, Atlanta's salaries are not the most in the league. They're not honestly close to the most in the league. Toronto on salary spending about $10 million a year more, but also it was factored in that Atlanta spent just over $15 million in the transfer for Pity Martinez. So Atlanta's not spending on salary, but they are spending on transfers to where they're in line with the top spenders in the league.
Yeah, that's sort of been the rub on Atlanta since the beginning, is that it's a team that, if you look at salaries, they don't look like a big spending club. Their salaries are certainly higher than the average MLS team, but they're not outrageous. But where Atlanta spends its money is on transfer fees. It goes and it just shows the idea that Atlanta spends big money on players it identifies that it can sell for big money, and developing players can typically be had on lower salaries than established stars. Again, I think that's why Pity's not being at $1 million kind of surprised me, just because he is a little bit older. I mean, he's 25 going on 26, and I kind of would have thought that he would have commanded a higher salary, especially considering that transfer fee. But yeah, it's all about the transfer fees for Atlanta.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what Pity was making salary-wise at River. I wouldn't think he was making more. I don't know how much less he was making. I would assume it was a pretty good raise. And Pity talked about it when that deal was going down, I think before it was officially announced, and he was speaking to Argentine media about quality of life, about the opportunity in Atlanta. He was excited about coming to the United States and playing in Atlanta because they took him very seriously and pursued him very seriously. So, it sounds like he was happy with everything that came out of that. And it was a big step up in his career for him from what he was making at River Plate, and the opportunity. I think Pity would like to go to Europe. And you made a really good point about that salary being a number that, if you're a European club, that's manageable, and you can give him a raise after a transfer fee and still feel like it's a good deal all the way around.
Yeah, sure. And, there's been no official release of what he got out of that transfer fee that Atlanta United paid, what sort of bonus that he received. Whether or not he can make it to Europe, I mean, because of his age, that's going to be quite a challenge for him. It's not getting off to a great start in MLS this year. And I don't know how realistic that goal is. Maybe they're, especially considering the kind of transfer fee Atlanta would want in return, considering what they paid for him. But yeah, if it were able to be worked out, his salary is at a place where he would be affordable, on wages.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think Pity is kind of taking a gamble in a lot of ways, as to he wasn't getting that interest out of Argentina, out of playing in the Superliga and playing with a club like River Plate that is as big as you can get. So make the jump to the United States and see if that exposure changes it.
Yeah, and it's certainly the fact that he was coming here at the same time that Miguel Almiron was leaving. That's what he said, if I recall correctly, in his, the various comments he made around this signing, was that, look at what Miguel Almiron is doing. He's going over to Europe on a big transfer fee, and I want to do the same thing. And so I think that Almiron had a pretty good season, despite it ending with an injury at Newcastle. And I think that he did well enough. I mean, he wasn't a world beater, but he influenced that team and made them better. And yeah, probably opened some Europeans' eyes to, if we think a player looks good in MLS, then they might actually be worth taking a shot on. But yeah, Pity's he just has to improve if he wants to get to Europe, because he's not playing at that level right now.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree. I think he would say the same. Finishing up with Chris Vermeister from Pro Soccer USA. Make sure you're following him at CCFUHR on Twitter. I got to ask you about the U.S. women's game yesterday and the 13-0 result and maybe the fallout from it on so many different fronts. What did you think about the final score? What do you think about the reactions to the goals? Just what are your thoughts at the end of that?
Yeah, I was doing some work in the beautiful lobby of this Marriott hotel, And it just every time I looked up from my keyboard, they were celebrating another goal. It was, the gulf in talent between the top of women's soccer and the bottom of women's soccer on an international level is pretty huge, and the U.S. displayed that in that game. As to whether, I've seen a lot of the fallout on should they have scored that many goals, should they have kept celebrating goals, and I've seen some people saying that the men wouldn't be having this sort of conversation around them if they did the same thing. I don't think that's really true. I think that if any men's team was beating somebody else 13-0 and scoring goals, that they would probably catch some flack for that too. But I honestly, I just don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I mean, they're playing in the World Cup. They're happy to win. Like, I can understand that some people don't like the idea of running up the score and not playing with class, as some people are saying. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't bother me. I mean, they're a good team, and I kind of like the idea of them taking on a super villain persona. I don't think that they should apologize to anyone for being extremely successul and having a good time doing it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be interesting to see how this tournament shakes out now, because now you have a storyline. You have a very big storyline when it comes to the United States. And after some of the things that former Canadian players said on Canadian TV, I don't know how realistic it is to see a U.S.-Canada match in this tournament. I think they're on opposite ends of the bracket, and it would take some weird things to happen. But, man, that would be so great at this point.
Yeah, I think that some of those comments were sort of what pushed me in the direction of saying, like, yeah, let them do it. Because, I mean, that was just pretty sanctimonious and self-righteous. I just didn't really like those kind of comments at all. But of course, though, they win 13-0. They celebrate a lot of goals. But if they lose to France in the quarterfinals, then they're going to look pretty silly. So they got to keep winning.
That's the important part here, is that you have a quarterfinal potentially against France, who in many people's minds, and I was right there too, France was the favorite coming into this. So, the 13-0 is great, but you have some big games coming up, and honestly, it starts with the final group game against Sweden. So we'll see what happens with the U.S. We'll see what happens with this Open Cup game. Make sure you're following Chris for all the latest out of Charleston. How long are you guys waiting this out in Charleston?
I think we're going to hit the road pretty soon. They supposedly are going to have an official announcement on a makeup date, time, and location by noon today. I checked back in with some officials just a few minutes ago, and that's still the plan. So we're probably going to hit the road soon and try to get an announcement whenever they get it, and we'll have an update whenever they finally come to a decision.
Doug and Chris will be frantically refreshing Twitter on the road between South Carolina and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Well, y'all be safe. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime. Chris Vermeister from Pro Soccer USA hanging out with us with all the latest from Charleston. Crazy storyline over there, and we still don't really know what's going to happen next. That's the craziest thing about it, is we have no clarification on what's going to happen. Noon was what was kind of bandied around yesterday as to a resolution of this whole situation, at least in terms of an announcement. Maybe that's still the case. Hopefully that's still the case, according to Chris, and we'll let you know if we hear it while we're still on the air. Michael had chimed in on Twitter on a Wall Pass Wednesday, and you guys can do the same at Soccer Down Here, mentioning Breck Shea's contract. Breck Shea made $745,000 in 2018. He's on $225,000 here in 2019. And Michael said the front office continues great work. Ivis Galarcep tweeted that out when people were kind of freaking out about Breck Shea signing with Atlanta United, and he was on so much money and blah, blah, blah. Ivis said that it was not the same type of deal, and it would make sense based off past performance. It would make sense based off age and honestly role, because Breck Shea was not brought in here to play 34 games and play 2,800 minutes. Breck Shea was brought in to be a rotation player with George Bello and some on the left wing. And, hey, things have changed, and I think it's been way, way too harsh, some of the criticism of Breck Shea. Maybe seeing this number, which I kind of hate that that's the case, but maybe seeing the number will change a little bit of the attitude around it. Chris Kilroy gets into a little bit of news that dropped yesterday late in the afternoon and asks us, so what's up with the timing of Red Bull Leipzig, RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, pulling back Tyler Adams from U.S. men's national team Gold Cup squad? Does the club think playing for a U.S. men's national team a lost cause this summer? Hashtag tinfoil. No, I think he's just injured. I don't think that had anything to do with it. He's out 6 to 8 weeks is what the initial reports are with a groin injury. Reggie Cannon will replace him in the Gold Cup squad, and there was talk about that popping up early yesterday. Reggie Cannon's had a good year for Dallas. He's been part of this mix. I think the fact that you're seeing Reggie Cannon come in, a right back, replacing Tyler Adams, who is a hybrid right back, I think it tells you that Greg Berhalter is going to keep with the same system, in italics. I think that's what you're going to see in the Gold Cup. You're not going to see any changes. So the Tyler Adams role, which in a lot of ways, this system was designed to get the most out of Tyler Adams and get him on the field in a role that he can be a game changer in. He's not there now. So Nick Lima has played in that system and in that role, and I think he's done a fine job there. Can Reggie Cannon do that? We'll have to wait and see. But without bringing in a midfielder, for example, if it had been Darlington Nagbe replacing Tyler Adams, or Jordy Mihailovic replacing Tyler Adams, or somebody like that, a central midfielder, okay, I think you could look at it and see, well, maybe there's going to be a difference in some of the tactics. Going to Reggie Cannon, you're replacing with a right back a player that you were going to play at right back, even in a different kind of right back role. You were going to play him as a right back. So that tells you enough. Think about where Greg Berhalter's mindset is with what the tactics are going to be going into the Gold Cup. This week to train, to get ready for Guyana in the first game of the group stage. Going to have to take every bit of it. And without Adams now, who is going to be in that hybrid right back role? My guess is Lima, but Cannon will have an opportunity to try to show himself and earn that spot. Coming up next, we're going to get Mike Conti on the line. Mike's had some thoughts about the U.S. women's national team win yesterday. Want to talk to him about that. Want to talk to him about the continued chaos in Charleston. I mean, we were going to be there. Then we weren't there because of the broadcast situation. It would have been an interesting broadcast. We'll try to play through what we would have done with all of that going on and everything else going on in the soccer world right after this. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after the break.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, June 12th. All kinds of drama and chaos and ill feelings and anger and Twitter warriors going off with all kinds of things in the soccer universe right now. Mike Conti likes Twitter warriors.
I'm a self-proclaimed Twitter warrior, I guess. Let's start with this. It's not Charleston's fault. Look, this was an act of God weather situation. I feel awful for them. This was a great opportunity for them to have the MLS Cup champions in their park, and Mother Nature dealt them a cruel, cruel blow. So I don't know what more they could have done. It's very, very unfortunate. It's an extraordinary situation, and it's a situation that is complicated for Atlanta United, but Charleston would suffer way more with this match being moved to next week because of where they are in league play right now. So let's just put that all aside for a second. It's not like Charleston benefits from this in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, not at all. The only questions when it comes to Charleston are if you go back and you look at the match from Saturday against Birmingham, and you go back and you look at those highlights, there's a lot of sand on that field then. Mm-hmm. And knowing what the weather conditions were going to be, and we were tweeting about it, or we were texting about it last night, why wasn't an artificial surface field that would have met the requirements, why wasn't that sought out?
Yeah, I mean, and on that point, it feels like that could be Charleston really digging in on the idea that they're hosting this match come hell or high water, it's not being moved. Your options for artificial surfaces in Charleston are limited. Charleston Southern University has an artificial surface at their football stadium, but I don't think it's wide enough. Your major high school football stadiums there, Goose Creek, Stratford, Wando, Fort Dorchester, I believe James Island as well, all natural surfaces. Natural surfaces are out of the question right now, it would seem, due to all the rain that has fallen in that area. So you are substantially limited in what you can do within, greater Charleston. Could they have moved the match to Columbia, South Carolina? Could they have moved it to Myrtle Beach or Conway, where Coastal Carolina is? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who the mythical match commissioner is for this, who supposedly is charged now with making all the decisions because we're going to go beyond 24 hours with this match.
There's a
not
couple
being
processes with that, and I have a little bit of experience in this. So you have a match commissioner that's on site, and usually it's somebody from the state association that is involved, who has done this before and worked with U.S. Soccer. Sometimes they come from the referee community. They're not a referee assessor in this role, but they're basically in charge of these types of situations. Now, we're at this point in terms of the scheduling that it's going to go past whatever that match commissioner on site was, and it's going to go to the Open Cup committee. And they're going to have to figure out, how do we resolve this because of the schedule that's coming up? It's not easy for either team. Both teams have challenges with it, however this game gets pushed back.
Well, and then I think you have to ask the question, and I hate to even bring up this possibility, but is it in the best interest of one of the teams just to forfeit? And I hate to even bring that up, but you look at the situation that Charleston is in right now. They have a league match this Saturday on the road in Tampa. They have a league match next week. Atlanta United, after next week, does not have an open date until Wednesday, July the 10th. So as far as logistics are concerned, I don't see MLS or USL moving fixtures to accommodate a rescheduled U.S. Open Cup match. Would you agree with me on that?
Not necessarily. We've seen games moved for CONCACAF purposes. I'd have to go back and research it to see if they've been moved for an Open Cup situation like this. It's probably a little bit easier for USL to do it in terms of MLS doing it because of national TV contracts, and with Atlanta being a team that's on national TV a lot, it's going to be harder for MLS to do that. And when you get all the way to July 10th, that's the date for the quarterfinals.
Right.
So you've got some wiggle room if the fourth round game gets pushed back, with your round of 16 game getting pushed back, but you don't have much wiggle room.
No, it's I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, if you're with the Charleston Battery, you're probably looking at this as, we are not forfeiting come hell or high water. We're going to find a way to play this match. Atlanta United is in a very complicated position because if they can't get this resolved quickly, you're not going to be able to move your match in Toronto on the 26th. Flights have been booked, international travel, broadcast windows, all of that. And then beyond that, you play Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, and then you're into the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. So Atlanta does not have much flexibility at all on this. And it's just such an unfortunate situation. I don't want to play the blame game as some are doing on Twitter because I don't think it's productive. I think right now you're trying to find a solution. And it seems puzzling to me that you have not found a solution as of 10 o'clock this morning.
Yes, that seems really off.
To your point, Jason, if there was sand down on their pitch on Saturday and they saw the weather forecast, they had to have a premonition that it was going to be dodgy as to whether or not that surface was playable. And it could have been a situation where they wanted to wait to get both teams out there warming up to finally make a judgment. Because as the U.S. Open Cup handbook says, I mean, every opportunity should be exercised to play a match. It should be the absolute last resort to abandon a match. Maybe that was their thought process. I don't know. But there needs to be a solution. It is possible they've reached a solution and they just haven't told us yet. Doug Roberson has reported this morning Atlanta United's going home. I don't think they'd be getting on the bus unless they had a good inclination of what was about to happen. And, oftentimes in this case, if you're dealing with ticket refunds and rearranging broadcast windows and all of that, booking travel, there are a lot of things that you need to have formally in place before you make an announcement to the affected spectators. So it could be that they have a solution by now, but it seems dubious to me that they have not been able to come up with a solution that both clubs can agree upon. It seems like moving the match to Kennesaw and playing tomorrow would be doable. You could still, if you're Charleston, you would probably bus to Kennesaw. You could bus from Kennesaw to Tampa, play Saturday. It's not ideal, but them's the breaks. Kennesaw is not booked right now. That's a hybrid natural artificial surface. I'm sure it's playable. It's wired for TV, so you can still have it on ESPN+. It would seem that is doable. But if Charleston is really dug in that they want to host the match, as they are entitled to by virtue of the draw, then I get it. But you've got to get this worked out because it's going to affect both teams in league play. And you have Atlanta United that can ill afford to have any more complications in their league schedule with the match congestion they have coming up. And you have Charleston that's kind of scuffling right now in USL Championship East. Every match for them is very important too. So it's got to get worked out. It's got to get worked out soon. It's unfortunate that nothing has been announced yet. That seems very, very dubious to me.
It's got to get played too, and that's. I know. I think we look at these things sometimes as well. The Open Cup's not that big of a deal. Just take a forfeit. It's fine. It's got to get played. The Open Cup doesn't become a big deal if you start forfeiting games because of these situations. It happens in every cup around the world where you have weather get involved, you have a field issue get involved, and you have to reschedule, even if it's Atlanta United signing as many Atlanta United 2 players as they can to play that match, and then an Atlanta United 2 playing with a lot of academy guys in the next game. Even if it takes lengths like that to get a game in, it has to get played. It's completely unacceptable if you're U.S. Soccer to not have this game get played. And whatever lengths have to be done, and if Atlanta has to say, you know what, we're prioritizing league play because of the reschedule, there's nothing we can do. You saw what lineup we were going to field in Charleston with Pity Martinez in it, with stars in it. This was not going to be a second-choice lineup for what we had available. You can't fault them if they have to go to second choice if it's rescheduled and it's tricky schedule-wise.
No, and that's the sad thing to me of all is you looked at that lineup last night with Pereira.
I was excited.
Carlton and Pity Martinez thinking, oh boy, this could be a lot of fun to watch. I am in a way grateful the match did not actually occur because I would be very worried about exposing those players to injury on that surface. But if they could have played that on a true pitch, that could have been a lot of fun to watch. And that's the sad thing of all. I mean, it's one thing for the teams to be inconvenienced with travel and lose a couple days of training. It's one thing for us to be aggrieved because U.S. Soccer is not going to let us do a radio broadcast. But the real losers in this are the fans. And that's the really, really sad thing to me. And again, I think, I don't want to cast blame, but I think the Charleston club, unfortunately, did not do right by their fans by not being more proactive when they knew that the pitch was going to be a problem. Even if they could not have found an alternate facility, do right by your fans, be a little bit more communicative, a little more open. Don't drag everyone out there on a Tuesday night and then, create this narrative that maybe one of the teams didn't want to play. As was described by Doug in his Twitter feed last night when he went down to the Three Lions pub. I mean, I don't think that's really fair either.
No.
So, again, this isn't about blame. This is an act of God, but I think it could have been handled better. And I am concerned that it still has not been fully resolved because that tells me that there are still too many questions about this. And the longer this goes, the more I fear that there's going to be a solution that's not going to be acceptable to at least one of the clubs.
Speaking of unacceptable and controversy and all of those things, there's been a lot of people who have said what the U.S. women's national team did yesterday, winning 13-0, was unacceptable. And I think the excuses for why it was unacceptable have changed as the final whistle blew. At first it was, well, you can't score that many goals. That's not right. You can't do that. That's not sportsmanship. And then it changed to the celebration side of it. And now that's what everybody's getting into. And I don't know if you saw it on Canadian television last night. You had former Canadian national team players. One said it was disgraceful what Megan Rapinoe did celebrating her goal. Thoughts?
I thought it was unnecessary, but I don't think it was disgraceful. And to the part about it being unnecessary, here's the reality, Jason. You only get to play in a World Cup once every 4 years. For a player like Megan Rapinoe, she might only get 3 or 4 in her whole career. So if you score a goal at the World Cup, I don't care if it's 1-0 or 13-0, you're going to celebrate. So was it unnecessary? Yes, but if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I feel like if you have an opportunity to score at a World Cup, make the most of it. I think the bigger problem is you're seeing a very, very unfortunate example of how we have not achieved global parity in women's soccer yet, where, to have a 13-0 game in a World Cup that no one's happy about that. That's a very, very, very sad thing to see. But Thailand qualified for the World Cup in one of the approved FIFA channels to get into the Women's World Cup. So,
and they weren't the last place team in their continent either. They were the 4th team out of Asia. South Korea, who's playing right now and keeping it pretty close with Nigeria, South Korea was the 5th place team. Actually, South Korea just equalized. So.
Well, and not only that, Asia has produced a World Cup champion and 3 World Cup finalists, including finalists in the last 2 World Cups. So it's not even an indictment of that confederation.
No, South Korea would have equalized, but they were offside.
Well, anyhow, look, I think we're in a society where people just want to be angry for the sake of being angry. And if you really want to be angry about what you saw yesterday, be angry about the fact that, we have not achieved global parity in women's soccer yet. And hopefully that's something that will change through the course of time. I mean, I think you've seen more countries, especially in Europe, somewhat in South America, starting to close the gap on the traditional powers now. Big result for Argentina. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Like you're seeing more examples now of regions of the globe that are starting to close that gap. But, if you want to be angry at the fact that, we haven't achieved global parity yet, I guess. Hey, look, was Rapinoe's thing a little bit extra? Yeah. I mean, do I wish he had not done that? Yes, absolutely. I wish he had not done that. But she's entitled to do it. It's the World Cup. You only get to play in it once every 4 years. So if that's the way she wants to celebrate a goal in the World Cup, that is her right. I didn't love it, but I'm not going to kill her over it.
Yeah, I think the overreaction was a bit much. I mean, my things, and we talked about it on our World Cup date yesterday. Kelly Francis and I were kind of in the same boat about it. Like, the goals, you can't control.
No.
Goals. You can't tell a team to say, okay, don't go into the final third, just pass it backwards in the defensive zone. Don't try to score. You can't do that. It's not right. I would have handled the game differently. The celebrations I wasn't a big fan of, and the one that probably got my attention that nobody's talked about, which surprised me, I expected it would be the one that everybody would have pounced on, was Jill Ellis and her staff celebrating in a pretty big way on the 13th goal. And they cut to it quickly on the world feed and then cut away. JP and Allie mentioned it and kind of laughed that people say Jill Ellis celebrates like Sam Mewis, like she doesn't know how to celebrate. But that reaction surprised me. All it is bulletin board material. And that's, if you have an issue, that's it.
That's the thing. I mean, now you've left yourself exposed to the soccer gods a little bit. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be a lot of people cheering against the U.S. women's national team and their upcoming fixtures against Chile and Sweden because of what happened. That is something that the U.S. women's national team brought completely upon itself. As for Jill Ellis, look, it's impossible to ignore the comments that Hope Solo made earlier this week. Jill Ellis, I thought, responded to them in the best possible manner, which was to downplay them, not create any kind of, extra controversy. But I have to think with Hope Solo in the building yesterday, Jill Ellis probably took a tremendous amount of personal satisfaction in that scoreline, just because of what she's been dealing with over the last week. Not defending her celebration at all. Just trying to provide context.
The celebration's fine. They earned the right to celebrate. It's the fact that when you look ahead to games with Sweden, with Spain potentially in the round of 16, with France in the quarterfinal, I mean, that's the bulletin board, is the celebrations and some of the comments that have been made afterwards. I had a problem when the lineup came out and we saw that Becky Sauerbrunn was going to be out of the lineup and Julie Ertz was moving to the back line, and you didn't need a 6 in this game. Obviously, you went 13-0. But the fact that before the game in the lineup and the way the game played out, you didn't get Morgan Bryan, Emily Sonnet, Tierney Davidson on the field, and your first 2 subs were Carly Lloyd and Kristen Press. If you want to criticize anything about the way the game played out and, they shouldn't have went for as many goals, I would have used the substitutions differently. I wouldn't have made attacking subs in those situations.
I agree. And furthermore, it's not like Carly Lloyd needed World Cup experience.
Yeah,
right?
I would, and that's why I would have played Morgan Bryan, who is really your only other 6 in the team. I would have given her those minutes to get sharp with this group. Emily Sonnet, Tierna Davidson are defenders that you might need in this tournament, you had an opportunity with no pressure to get them on the field playing with teammates that you might have to play them with. I feel like that was a wasted opportunity yesterday.
And the sad thing to me is that all of this discussion today overshadows a much more important fact that the U.S. women's national team played with tremendous quality yesterday. And I think answered a lot of questions because their form going into the tournament was okay, not great, okay. You know, I think there were a lot of questions surrounding this team going into the tournament. And I thought you had a great tweet yesterday before the match started, Jason, about how for you, it wasn't about the scoreline. It wasn't about the number. You were looking to see if the quality was there. The quality was absolutely there. And they scored some fantastic goals yesterday, some unbelievable goals, completely dominated the match. Even in the very few moments where Thailand got out on a counter, to see the U.S. women's national team, Kelly O'Hara in particular,
really
strong in the tackle, getting back, tracking back, recovering, doing just everything you need to do, the little things to win a match, regardless of who the opponent is. That was extremely encouraging to me yesterday, and no one's talking about it because everyone is getting hung up on the controversies, and I think that's very unfortunate. That might be something the team brought upon itself. I don't know. But it's unfortunate because they played very, very well. And I feel a lot better about the U.S. women's national team going forward in this World Cup now than it did 24 hours ago.
So Michael had chimed in, and I have to disagree with part of it. Michael said, where's the FIFA blame for the 13-0 scoreline? If you don't want these blowouts, don't have 24 teams in the World Cup. That said, there's no reason for the excessive scoring and over-celebrating the goals. I'll disagree on the excessive scoring because you can't not score if you're in scoring situations. My point was the substitutions. I would have changed the way I subbed. I would have brought in defensive players, not to play like a 4-5-1 or anything, but just to play different players and get them minutes. Kristen Press, Carly Lloyd didn't need those minutes. Mallory Pugh, you could argue that she did. On the FIFA side of it, the record previously, before this one, for largest win, largest margin, most goals, all that, was Germany and Argentina in 2007. You don't see the progress that Argentina made from that tournament to this one with no support from their federation. You don't see that unless you are in the tournament and you deal with it. Thailand doesn't magically get better by not being in the tournament if it's a 16-team tournament. Those are the breaks. I wish you didn't have those, but you have a great disparity. Those are the things that happen when you expand the tournament. You have some teams that wouldn't have been there that are now there, and they're going to get pummeled if they don't bring it in that match. You're going to see that on the men's side when you go to 48 teams because look at from a CONCACAF standpoint. You're going to go from having U.S., Mexico, Costa Rica as your three that you pencil in to having a Guatemala get in, to having a Trinidad get in. And you could have Trinidad versus Germany in a World Cup match in 2026, and it could be a 10-0. That could happen. You have to expand the tournament to get there, and I think this tournament and what we're seeing with TV ratings around the world with record-setting numbers in so many different countries, and Thailand will probably be one that had more interest in a women's soccer match than they've ever had in country's history. It doesn't get better unless they're here, and unfortunately they have to take some of these bad losses to get where the game can get down the road.
Yeah, and I would say don't blame FIFA, blame the FAs. FIFA is, I think, going down the correct path in eventually expanding the tournament even further because you want to make it accessible for more countries to qualify for the Women's World Cup.
More sponsorship, more money comes into it that way. We know that.
That's part of it, too, but that helps grow the game globally the more countries you get into the World Cup. If you're upset about what you saw yesterday, blame the FAs. You bring up a great point in Argentina getting no support from their federation in 2011. That is on the individual nations and their federations to take women's soccer, women's football more seriously. That is outside the control of FIFA. If you want to be mad at FIFA be mad at the fact that goal difference is a tiebreaker. But what else are you going to use to break ties? If you want to be mad at FIFA, I thought playing 3 minutes of stoppage yesterday was completely unnecessary.
Was unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. Blame them on that. But you're not going to grow the game internationally, women's soccer, if you go back to 16 teams, or if you keep it at 24 for the long term. I look forward to the day when you have a 48-team Women's World Cup and you have, of those 48, 25 to 30 robust soccer nations that can all contend for a Women's World Cup title. I don't think it'll happen in this generation, but I think it'll happen in our lifetime. And that's not necessarily all on FIFA. I think it's on the individual nations and their federations.
100%. Thailand qualified for the tournament. They were in as of last May, I believe. Last April, last May, when they finished fourth in the Asian Cup. All their players, except for 2 who play in college in the United States, play in Thailand. I don't know how many national team camps they had. I don't know if they had really any. They played a lot of games, and they had won 1 of 12 coming into it. I don't know how much true preparation they did. When you go back to 1994, for example, where the U.S. knew that they were in the Men's World Cup when they were awarded hosting responsibilities, they basically did a 4-year camp because they didn't have a professional league. Thailand doesn't have a women's professional league. Their players aren't playing in other countries. They could have done more to be more competitive. They didn't. It happens. You have to take that pummeling to a degree to get better. I don't think the women's game would grow by bringing the tournament back.
Well, and one more point. If it were France beating Thailand 13-0, let's say France and Thailand were in the same group and France beat them 13-0, are we having all these discussions today? Probably not. We care more because the United States is involved, quite frankly. So, look, my takeaway from yesterday is I feel really good about where the U.S. women's national team is right now. It is unfortunate that we suddenly have a debate about what happened yesterday, but it is a debate they brought upon themselves with the way they celebrated yesterday. Again, you only get one World Cup every 4 years. I'm good with it, but I certainly understand why others are not. And I think you've put the target on your back a little bit.
Yes.
If you're the women's national team now, you've put that target on your back. You've angered a lot of people over there, and you're going to have to be on your toes right now. Chile looks like a very straightforward match, but then Sweden, you got to beat them probably. I mean, if you draw, you're going to get them on goal difference in all likelihood, but you don't know what Sweden's going to do to Thailand. So, and then, ironically, you're almost better off being second coming out of this group than winning the group. If you look at how the bracket is set up, you don't know how the lucky losers are going to fall. But look, I'm glad it's creating a discussion about this Women's World Cup. A lot of people were paying attention yesterday. You certainly saw a trend on Twitter quite dramatically. That's great. I'll be anxious to see the TV rating on Fox. And, for Rob Stone, it was calling on them to pull the ball out and, pass it amongst themselves. Well, and hey, Rob, how many people are going to be watching your whack post-game show if they are playing stalling soccer, negative soccer for the last 30 minutes? Probably very few. We have bloodthirsty fans here in America. They wanted to see goals. I thought Rob Stone was totally off base with those comments yesterday.
Yeah, that's where, when you get to gender, I wonder if he would have said the same about a Gold Cup game with the U.S. men beating Guyana, which I don't think they're going to beat them 13-0, but the U.S. men should win that game handily.
Jason, here's the problem. I mean, let's call it what it is. The optics. You had Thailand probably on average giving up, 4 or 5 inches per player out there. I mean, you have the optics of a very physically big, strong U.S. women's national team against optically a Thailand side that did not appear to measure up to them physically. And it kind of looked like David against Goliath, and the optics were not good. Excuse me. And I think that plays into what you're saying about gender. You don't necessarily see those kinds of physical disparities in the men's game. You're not going to see it in USA against Guyana. You're not going to see it in USA against Jamaica or whoever they end up playing in the Gold Cup. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and it's only going to get louder as I think more nations around the world chime in about their thoughts on the U.S. women. Look, they have to win the thing now. I mean, they've created that pressure now that they are the queens of the tournament, and they stood up and showed that with a huge win. Now everybody's going to be gunning for them, so it's going to be an interesting rest of the summer.
Hey, real quick,
yep.
And I'm not joking when I say this, you got to give Thailand a lot of credit to not give up an own goal in that match yesterday. I mean, every time you looked up and watched the monitor, it felt like that ball was inside the box, on the edge of the 6-yard box. You would think with that kind of possession and that kind of traffic in the box that they'd put it in their own net once or twice. The fact that they didn't, I guess, is a testament to them. So
own goals. They kept playing. They kept fighting.
Yeah.
It's something they can build from, sadly.
I hope they get something positive in their match from Chile against Chile, or they get something positive against Sweden, because those young women deserve to have something good happen to them.
100%. Yeah, their tournament comes down to the match with Chile. If they get a result there, it will be epic for women's soccer in Thailand. Mike, I'll see you in a little bit. We have stoppage time at 2 o'clock over at the 92.9 The Game Facebook page, and we'll be talking about some of this stuff and more Women's World Cup, because there's some really good games today.
Yeah, it's been a fun tournament so far. Looking forward to talking with you at 2 o'clock about it.
See you at 2. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. SDH Wall Pass Wednesday. Joining the conversation on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Lots of different things going on this morning. I think we've covered most of the angles and aspects of the women's national team and their 13-0 win. There'll be lots more to come. The Canadian TV piece I thought was way over the top, but you do have to remember on the women's side that is a massive rivalry, and the U.S. has generally had the better of it. So I think there were some hurt feelings from past encounters that mixed into that a bit. If it had been Germany and Argentina, like it was in the previous record of 11-0, I don't know if you would have seen some of the same comments. Tafka chimes in, I spent 4 hours in the car yesterday only to find out on arrival that the game was canceled. I'm not even mad. I spent those 4 hours talking about my upcoming article with the two most MLS Open Cup USL knowledgeable South Carolinians I know. Well, at least it was productive for you, Tafka. I'm glad, you were able to get something out of it. I hate that you were in the car for that long and the game got canceled right after its scheduled kickoff time. I do hate the way all that was handled. I'm assuming it was very complicated, and we might get a better sense of that when we get an announcement as to what's next. I saw pictures from our friend Michael Earhart on Twitter at 4:05 that showed a lot of sand in a lot of different places on the field before or as it was raining heavily. If you go back and you look at the highlights from the match on Saturday against Birmingham, there was a lot of sand on the field on Saturday. Doug Robertson chimed in on our interview with Chris Furmeister that there were 10 different parts of the field that were covered by sand in this situation. You have sand covering these parts of the field, and you have more rain on top of it. You're creating situations where people are going to slip. And maybe this would have been a different whole conversation if Atlanta had not gone through the match in Columbus in league play at the end of March, where you had a field that was unplayable. It was flat out unplayable. There's just no way around it. You had puddles in that situation. It was unplayable. And Atlanta had to play through it. Maybe there was a stronger pushback on, no, this field is unplayable. Maybe that's the case. Obviously, someone agreed, and the match was postponed. I'm just a little surprised at the way the timeline all worked out. And I don't know if we'll ever get full understanding of why that was the case. It was a little odd that you had conversations about the College of Charleston after this match was postponed and going over there to take a look, and then things starting to come out that, it's going to be played over there tomorrow at noon. Well, it's going to be played over there on Monday or Tuesday of next week. It felt like you knew that you had problems with your field on Saturday with all that sand on it, and you knew what the forecast was going to look like. And as Mike said, maybe there's not many artificial surface possibilities in Charleston proper. We do know that Charleston Southern's football stadium is, and it would have been a more narrow field, but that would have been a better solution than not playing the match. I don't know if there just isn't a relationship there, or Charleston Southern said, no, we're not going to rent it to you. We don't have no way to know. It's an awkward situation all the way around. Jay Nams on Twitter chimes in and says, could you argue that you would want your attackers to be fresher by subbing them while working on defensive continuity by letting those players get more minutes together? You could. My issue is that you didn't have your starting defense, period. When Julie Ertz had to go to the back line and replace Becky Sauerbrunn, to me that tells you that if you get into that situation again, it's going to be Julie Ertz going to the back line. And we had talked about that coming in. Julie Ertz on the back line feels the safest situation for the U.S. And I expected that we'd see it at some point. I didn't expect to see it in this type of situation. I expected that we would see a team starting to dominate a game and Jill Ellis would move Julie Ertz to the back line, because we have seen that. Okay, you do that, and you have the opportunity to play a player in Morgan Bryan that you think will be a 6. You put her on the roster. She played the 6 role, the defensive midfield role, in 2015. She's had a lot of injuries since the Olympics in 2016. She hasn't played regularly. Her form has dipped because of that. She makes the roster, and she makes it over McCall Zerboni, and we've had that conversation. I think Zerboni was the player you needed here, because what would have happened in a perfect world, in a meaningful game, you don't have one of your center backs, you move Ertz to the back line, you bring in Zerboni as the 6, done. In this one, you didn't do that. You're able to play Sam Mewis as the 6 because you don't really need a defensive midfielder in this game. But you don't give minutes to Morgan Bryan, who needs them. Or the flip side is you keep Ertz as the 6. You don't give minutes to Emily Sonnet or Tierna Davidson, who need them because they might be called upon. I feel like Jill Ellis showed her cards a little bit as to, if things go down here, you're going to roll with the 14 players or so that we saw in this match. So we'll include Sauerbrunn in it, you have 15 that you're gonna roll with in this tournament. That's it. It was your starting 11 from yesterday plus Sauerbrunn, who would normally be a starter. It's Carly Lloyd, it's Kristen Press, it's Mallory Pugh. The fact that nobody else saw the field yesterday in a game where you could have played anybody you wanted to. You could have played one of your goalkeepers at striker and you would have been fine. You could have done whatever you wanted here, and you went with the 14 players that you would expect to see, plus Sauerbrunn, who was injured yesterday. That tells me that there's not a lot of trust for the rest of the roster. That's a concern. Could you have wanted to keep your attackers fresher by subbing them? 100%. And I think that would have been an easy way to go. You could have, with the lineup you had yesterday, you could have done this, and I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head. You could have pulled Morgan once she got her hat trick if you wanted to, and you could have played Lindsey Horan in that role. No questions asked, no problems. And you could have brought on Morgan Bryan. You could have brought on Emily Sonnet or Tierna Davidson and moved Julie Ertz into the midfield. All good. You could have went to the 3-4-3 that they were kind of, formation didn't really matter in this one, so, it's kind of dumb to even get into that side of it, but you could have went 3-4-3 with Ertz pushing up. You kind of did some of that because Ertz was pushing up anyway, because you didn't need 4 in the back with, one striker who wasn't seeing the ball. But you could have easily played Horan up top, moved pieces around. You could have played Rapinoe in one of the attacking midfield roles. You could have played Tobin Heath in one of the attacking midfield roles. You could have played Tobin Heath as an outside back, which we've seen, which we saw against Mexico. You could have done that if you'd wanted to. I think pulling attackers, fine. I think you could have played players who needed the minutes more. Carly Lloyd, at this point, she can step into a World Cup match and be completely fine. She didn't need minutes yesterday. Others did. Kristen Press, you could argue needed minutes. I think not, but okay. Mallory Pugh, it was her World Cup debut. All right, that's fine. Okay with that. I just think you could have handled the subs differently, and not to say don't go score, but just you could have given minutes to players who needed minutes, period. You still could have rested your attackers by subbing them out. The defensive continuity, there was no defensive continuity because people could have sat down and made sandwiches. There was no defense to be played, so I'm not going to go as far on that one. Kevin from Charlotte chimes in and says, I have the U.S. women's national teams back on how they handled the game. They have proven themselves good stewards of the game and have grown the women's game more than anyone else. They have earned our respect and support, and if they are okay with it, I am too. Ray Hudson on SiriusXM this morning, and this is the quote from their Twitter account. That was the worst advert for women's football that I've seen. As a lover of football, I didn't enjoy a single minute of that. That's way over the top, in my opinion. And that's Ray. Ray is going to say things to be over the top. Understandable. Way over the top. The two things that I have an issue with on the way the game went down. I think you could have used an opportunity to get people minutes in a game, even if it's not really a competitive one, that they needed. I would have handled the substitutions differently. I probably would have handled the lineup differently and played Sonnet as a center back in that situation instead of Ertz, kept Ertz in the midfield, or I would have played Ertz as a center back and played Bryan in the midfield. Now, the question when you get into the full 11, and the full 11 to me would be Sauerbrunn replacing either Mewis or Horan or Lavelle, that question hasn't been answered yet. I don't know what the three midfielders are going to be when it matters. That I want to see, because I did think Samantha Mewis was outstanding yesterday. I think Samantha Mewis is a very important part of this team and needs to play. I don't know who you sacrifice, Horan or Lavelle, in a meaningful game, because you're going to have to sacrifice one of those two, I think, to have more balance in your midfield. Either that or you're asking Julie Ertz to have the game of her life in every game in a competitive one in this tournament as a six by herself. Horan's not as comfortable dropping in and supporting her. Lavelle's not comfortable dropping in and supporting her. You're going to need Samantha Mewis in that role. Who do you pull? We don't know yet. So my issues with the game are around lineup substitution, because you could have gotten minutes for other people. And the fact that, and it feels like the players are okay with it, and if they are, then that's all that matters. The fact that the celebrations now provide bulletin board material. Flat out. If they're cool with that target on their back, then, hey, have at it. You score that many goals, you earn the right to do what you want. The things about, well, they shouldn't have scored that many goals, that's obnoxious. I probably wouldn't have celebrated them quite as much at the end because I would have been thinking about what's coming, but hey, that's fine. If that's the mentality of this team, is that we're the best and we're going to show that we're the best and come beat us if you don't like it, that's a winning attitude. That's an attitude that can lift the World Cup. And it's a swagger that maybe they needed to find a little bit. Maybe they need to be the villainesses of the tournament to give them that swagger because, look, they've got one more game against a team that they will be incredibly favored against in Chile. Chile will provide a much better bit of competition than Thailand, in my opinion. I thought Chile handled Sweden pretty well and honestly lost their rhythm with the lightning delay yesterday that affected them. Chile will be a much tougher test, but not a tough test. The U.S. has beaten Chile multiple times in recent months. Okay. So after that, you're getting into Sweden. Sweden knocked you out of the Olympics in 2016. That's a revenge game, and it's going to have a revenge feel to it. But Sweden's good, and Sweden will sit back, and Sweden will defend, and you're going to have to break them down. You win that, you draw that now with the goal differential, because I don't see Sweden beating Thailand like this. You win or draw that, you win the group. You are then likely, and I think this is still very possible, depending on results, you're playing Spain in the round of 16. Now, the wild card is with the Jennifer Marzahn injury for Germany. The wild card is that Spain beats them if she doesn't play in that game, and Germany goes into the second spot in that group, number 2 ranked in the world, Germany, and that's who you see in the round of 16. Even a depleted Germany is going to be a challenge. Spain will be a challenge in that game, either one. That's your round of 16 game against either team that could beat you. Then you're going into a quarterfinal with France in Paris. And that's a difficult match no matter what's happened before it. So maybe you needed some of that swagger. You're going to have to own it now. And if the team's ready to do that, that's fine. But to say that it was the worst advert for women's, no, I think that's ridiculous. That's way over the top. And to say that it was disgraceful, as Canadian TV said, to me, that's over the top and way too much. We're going to take a break, final break, get back into the Twitter timeline. Final call for questions, comments. Throw them at me at Longshoe at Soccer Down here. Wall Pass Wednesday will conclude after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here, June 12th. Man, this 13-0 Women's World Cup match has got everybody all fired up. More from Katie Weaver. Some U.S. women's national team thoughts. One, the Canadians pulling the be kinder self-righteous is hilarious, and they've never watched Melissa Tancredi play. Whew. The tank was definitely not kinder, that's for sure. And also, I did think it was kind of funny that the Canadians were pulling this card after Toronto fans were cheering Kevin Durant's Achilles blowing up in front of them. And if you've seen the slow-mo of that isolated, ooh, I've never seen something like that with an Achilles or calf muscle tear or whatever it ends up being. That one was rough to see. But the initial reaction and Toronto Raptors players having to tell fans, yeah, cut it out. That's not cool. It's kind of funny that this happens after that. They're very different situations, but the whole thing about Canadians would never do that, not so much. 2 from Katie. USA basketball dream team destroyed teams in 92. NBA is now most internationally diverse than it's ever been. Hope this Women's World Cup builds a stronger future. Honestly, I don't think you get this Women's World Cup that is as strong as it's ever been, with more contenders than you've ever seen. You don't get this if you don't have 2015, which was the first one with 24 teams. And people said, like, oh, you can't have this many teams. You have so many teams that it can't play at this level. You can't do this. Well, 4 years later, you've seen progress. In 4 years, after what Argentina's doing here, after the African nations and what they're doing here, after what Jamaica is doing here, after what Chile is doing here, it's going to be a different scenario. You're going to see other federations around the world say, you know what, if we invest in this, 1, we can compete, 2, there's a market for it. And look, they go hand in hand. We can sit here and say, do it for the right reasons, support it for the right reasons. We all know that. I don't think there's a whole lot of argument about is it right to support the women's game from a federation level. It's a business. We know it's a business. These ratings around the world, the argument you always get, and I heard it for 15 years in soccer in this city, in Atlanta, was, well, nobody watches. Well, you can't get more column inches in the paper because there's nobody coming to the games. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. When people care, then you'll get that. Well, when you get in the UK a record audience for the England-Scotland game, when you get in France a record audience for the France-South Korea game, in different parts of the world, when you're getting record audiences, when the games, the Women's World Cup games on Fox over the weekend, not involving the United States, by the way, the England-Scotland game on Fox drew a better rating than the U.S.-Venezuela men's friendly. It did. The ratings are there. When those things are happening, more federations around the world are going to invest in more ways to support the women's game. The women's game is going to get more competitive. It's already more competitive than it's ever been. It's going to get more competitive. You're going to see more big crowds for Serie A in Italy. You're going to see more big crowds for La Liga in Spain. You're going to see more big crowds for the Women's Super League in England. Look, all that's coming. There's just no way around it. No way around it. All right. The Colonel chimed in, and I disagree with the Colonel. We've had this conversation before. The Colonel says unpopular but correct opinion, and correct in the Colonel's mind. Far, far better for the U.S. men's national team to lose with an American coaching Americans than win with a foreign coach. I disagree. Losing the way they did is bad, no matter who's coaching it. I do think there is something to be said for a national team manager coming from the country that they're from, but I don't think it's an absolute. I don't. I think the United States now, and to me, the conversation's not about an absolute yes or no that it has to be an American coaching Americans. For me, there are enough American coaching candidates that you don't have to look outside. I mean, let's go back in history, because you get to this point based off the history that has happened before. Going into the 1994 World Cup, going to 1990, Bob Gansler coached that national team, took them to the World Cup. Bob Gansler was then replaced after some bad results, and the talk at that time, and this is 1991 or so, maybe end of 90, early 91, was that, hey, the Federation feels like they need a bigger name coach, a foreign coach. If they can get a foreign coach to come in, they're going to go do that. You didn't have a professional league. You didn't have a lot of options domestically. They went out and they got Bora Milutinovic. Bora had taken Costa Rica to the World Cup. Bora had been involved in World Cups before. He had just taken Costa Rica to 1990. Bora was the right fit for that time because you didn't have an option domestically. And Bora ultimately got the U.S. to the second round. Take that. Good. Okay. Bora leaves because that's what Bora does. He's there for a cycle, and then he wants more money or this or that. Things fall apart. He leaves. Steve Sampson comes in. Steve Sampson had coached with Bora as the assistant. Steve Sampson had been a college coach. Steve Sampson took the team to Copa America in 1995. They finished better than anyone expected. They beat Argentina in a match that's one of the biggest wins in U.S. soccer history. And then they beat Mexico in a knockout round game, and they made a semifinal against Brazil. Sampson then qualified them for the 1998 World Cup after getting the job full-time, and then they crashed out in a horrible way. Didn't matter where he was from. He was going to be let go at that point. All right, so then at that point, who do you turn to? The manager who's won two of the first three MLS titles and just won the Inter-American Cup over Vasco da Gama with DC United, Bruce Arena. Bruce Arena took over. Some bumps in the way getting to 2002, but then you had the best World Cup that the country's ever had. Bruce Arena was the right person for the job at that time. After 2006, you go to Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley was the right person at that time for that job, and Bob Bradley did well. I don't think Bob Bradley should have come back after 2010. I'm a person who thinks World Cup managers, you should have one cycle. I think after one cycle, it's diminishing returns. Now, Yogi Löw with Germany has proven that wrong. He is not the typical manager in this situation. He won a World Cup after he had been there for a while. That doesn't happen normally. I think one cycle is the way to go. So I wouldn't have brought Bob back after 2010, period. They did, and then Sunil Gulati fired him after the Gold Cup final loss to Mexico, which wasn't a bad loss anyway. And they turned to Jurgen Klinsmann, who Sunil Gulati had wanted to hire many times along the way. Did you need to turn to a foreign manager at that time? If you weren't going to go with Bob and you weren't going to go back to Bruce at that point, there weren't a lot of domestic options, and Sunil Gulati had his heart set on hiring Jurgen Klinsmann, who Klinsmann had been living in California. He understood the American game, maybe not as well as he gave the impression that he did, but he wasn't a complete outsider. Klinsmann, a lot of people liked the things he had to say. I thought it was a little insulting at times. I didn't think he ended up doing a good job overall. I didn't think he should have come back after 2014. I definitely thought he should have been fired after the Gold Cup debacle in 2015, and it was a debacle. By waiting so long and doing it the way they did, they had to turn to somebody who had been there and done that before. Your two options were Bruce Arena and Bob Bradley. They went with Bruce. It made sense at the time. It didn't work at the end because Bruce made tactical mistakes in two big games. The Costa Rica game at Red Bull Arena and the game in Trinidad. It's on Bruce, for me, more than it's on anybody else. He made those mistakes. So then, the whole decision about where you're going to go. You go to Greg Berhalter. I feel like there were other American candidates that you should have talked to. Greg Vanney was coming off success in Toronto. Peter Vermes, for me, was the number one option. Jason Kreis would have been in the past. He had kind of lost that opportunity. Dominic Kinnear would have been at one point. He had kind of moved on from that opportunity. I felt like Peter Vermes was the best option. Maybe Peter wasn't interested. I feel like Greg Vanney should have been talked to. I feel like Jesse Marsch should have been talked to. Neither one were. Those were your options at that point. Tata Martino was an option, and Tata Martino was here for 2 years. If Tata Martino had been hired, I wouldn't have cared where he was from. I think it would have been a good coaching hire for that job. I think Greg Berhalter can be a good coaching hire. I think Greg Berhalter did well with Columbus. I think some of the statements about his time in Columbus have been a little bit of an overstatement. I want the best manager, period. And I don't think you have to go outside anymore because I think there are a number of qualified American candidates. But I want the best manager, period. I don't care where they're from. I do think that a domestic manager with that national team, and the U.S. is not any different than anywhere else. I think they have a better understanding of the player pool. I think they have a better understanding of the mentality of the players, and they have advantages. That doesn't mean every time they're the best hire. So I don't think it's as simple as you can't have a foreign manager, that you should not have a foreign manager. I think if all things are equal, you'd like to have a domestic manager because I think they understand the group better. Sometimes all things aren't equal. And at different points, the U.S. has made a decision that they weren't equal. I think when it came to Bora, it was correct. When it came to Klinsmann, at that time, he was kind of in between the two. I don't think it was the right move. I don't. But he did okay. But he shouldn't have had a second cycle coming. I don't think that would have happened no matter what. Okay. Let's move on. Good conversation, as always. The Colonel and I have had that conversation before. We've talked about it on the show. Those are my full thoughts on it. I don't think it's a definite either way. The Garlic Bread Warlord, who has been on vacation, chimes in with sounding the alarm that Antonio Conte, it appears, will be bringing Romelu Lukaku into Serie A. Lukaku says, Conte is the best manager in the world. I love Serie A. I made my decision on the future. I think Manchester United would make that sale and take that money. I agree. Questions about Tyler Adams and playing defense and if that would affect the decision that RB Leipzig made. No, that didn't. RB Leipzig did post a tweet about Tyler Adams being listed as a defender on the U.S. roster, kind of joking about it. That was a little bold from them. It's a valid question, but that was a little bold from them. Tyler Adams will not be part of the Gold Cup roster. Reggie Cannon has replaced him. Look, some conversation around the rosters or the salaries on MLS rosters that have come out. To me, I am very surprised at the number that Josie Altidore was re-signed on. Very, very surprised. Josie Altidore is on $6.3 million. Remember, his contract was up at the end of the year. That's a raise, first up, which he's 28. That's not crazy. But it's a raise to 6.3. Joseph Martinez signed a deal that gave him a raise, and I believe it was a 5-year deal, to $3 million a year. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, $7.2 million. Now, he was at 1.5 on TAM before because that was all the Galaxy could do. I wonder how much of those numbers were already pre-negotiated because you knew if Zlatan was going to come back for the second year of that deal, he wasn't coming back on 1.5 if he did well. He goes up to 7.2. Joseph at 3 feels like one of the best bargains, period, in the league. Joseph on $3 million versus some of these others. Really, really surprising. Let's see if we have the full numbers up. They are. Okay, so you can go see all this at mlsplayers.org. The salary guide is up. Zlatan, biggest salary in the league, 7.2. The second biggest guaranteed compensation was the buyout of Giovanni Dos Santos, 6.5. Man, that contract looks bad. Michael Bradley next, 6.4. He's in the final year of his deal. And this is the guaranteed compensation number. There's a base salary and a guaranteed compensation number. It's a little complicated. I believe the guaranteed one is what affects the salary cap. Okay, so Bradley's next, final year of his current deal, $6.4 million. Josie Altidore now at 6.3 guaranteed. Carlos Vela's on 6.3 guaranteed. His base salary is 4.5 and then guaranteed 6.3. I'd like to know why there's such a large discrepancy. Bastian Schweinsteiger, 5.6. Nacho Piatti, and this is another one, base salary is listed as $530,000 and guaranteed compensation is 4.4. I have no idea why that's the case. Alejandro Pozuelo, first year in the league, $3.8 million after a large transfer to bring him in. Wayne Rooney's on just over 3.5. Then Joseph is next at just over 3. Beyond him, Nicholas Ladero, 2.5. There were questions about Nani and his first year in the league, 2.4. Tim Howard, final year of his deal, final year of his career, he's at 2.475, which is huge for a goalkeeper. Diego Valeri, 2.4. Carlos Heel with New England, his first year in the league, 2.3. That's a big number for the New England Revolution, who don't spend money, remember? Jossie Zardes on 2.3. I know there's a lot of takes on that one. Jossie Zardes has scored goals in this league. He scored goals last year. That's a huge jump in salary for him, though. Marco Fabian, first year with Philadelphia, 2.275. This is one that I never understood to begin with. Yura Movsisian, who was brought back into the league to Real Salt Lake from Russia, and his contract was bought out, I believe, or he was waived or whatever. He's not with Real Salt Lake anymore. 2.273 is what's listed for him. That's a huge number for a player that was good, but not that type of salary good. Nico Gaitan, first year with Chicago, 2.1. Any other first-year guys that are interesting here? Scrolling back through. Another buyout, Skelzen Gashi from Colorado, 1.6. That's 3 guys who wasted money that you have to consider. Another one that you might say is wasted money is Kenny Safe, FC Cincinnati. His loan is up July 7th. It looks like it's going to get terminated a little early. He's been out with a hamstring injury for the last 3 games. Never settled in Cincinnati after a promising start, and he's going to head back to Anderlecht. He's on 1.5 in guaranteed compensation for the year. Now it's going to be prorated because he's not playing the full year. That's a big number that FC Cincinnati committed to. That, look, they're not picking up the loan. They're not going to keep him. Again, it goes back to Cincinnati. It doesn't feel like they properly planned coming into their first year in the league. Ezequiel Barco, 1.425 for Atlanta United. Those are the new ones. Those are the surprising ones. Andre Horta, who was just transferred out of the league from LAFC, he was on 1.2. Brian Fernandez from Portland, 1.275. His first year in the league. Kiki Strona from Houston, defender, 1.2. That's a big number for a defender. There's a few surprising numbers. Joseph on such a low number compared to the new contract for Josie. Zlatan, 7.2. Josie's big number. Jossie Zardes' pretty big number for a new contract. Those are the ones that grab my attention, that surprised me when those numbers come out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot said about it and where teams rank and where teams are salary-wise, and plenty to discuss the rest of the day. Lots of Open Cup matches today. 2 more big Women's World Cup matches, and the biggest one of the day, I think, is at noon, Germany and Spain. How does Germany handle the Marzipan absence with her broken toe? Does Spain take full advantage and get a win here that would propel them to potentially winning the group, which would affect who the U.S. would see in the round of 16 if the U.S. wins their group as expected? It's a big game for a lot of different reasons coming up at noon on FS1. You also have Norway playing later in the day as well. We're going to have a World Cup date for you around 5:30, 6 o'clock. We'll have stoppage time coming up for you over at 92.9 The Game at 2 o'clock. I'll be on with the midday show, Andy and Randy at 1:20 on radio at 92.9 The Game. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for all the interaction this morning. Greatly appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have some news on Atlanta United in the Open Cup. We don't know anything as of yet, so stay tuned on that. We'll keep you posted as best we can. Thanks, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all.